Literature circles is a grouping strategy in which students have a structured discussion around a common reading. I didn't invent it, and the more I've looked into it, I realize I wasn't quite doing it by the book. However, I did find this modified version quite effective in pre-COVID face-to-face literacy support and AP Lit classes, and I've seen it work really well during COVID-era distance learning. Here's how it works. All right. So let's start by putting your students into groups and assigning common reading. Ideas for procedures for grouping and for reading are down in the description. But let's say you've assigned Pride and Prejudice chapters 1 through 3, and here's one group of students, right? So what you do is you assign a specific job to each student. So here's a list of a few jobs. You don't have to use these same ones, but these are pretty generic and they work. So one student will keep track of the characters for this assigned portion, right? And tell us what we learn about each of the characters that are introduced or are found in this section of the reading. The next job is the illustrator or memer or giffer. And what this student will do is draw or insert a meme or gif of what they read, either literally or thematically. All right, the third job is what I think is one of the most important jobs, and this person connects what they're reading in the text to something outside of the text, whether it's their real life, a current event, another book they've read, a movie they've seen, or a TV show they've watched, but somehow connect outside things to the text. The next job is this word watching person who looks out for words that are either new or important, used in a figurative or imaginative way or an unusual way, and documents the significance of those. And the last person is in charge of summarizing that portion of the reading, right? So after you've explained this to your students, you might even walk them through the first portion and do each job together the first time and then assign them, right? So once you've gone through that, you assign each of these to the students, right? So in this example, Tommy is in charge of character control, Kim is the illustrator, Trini connector, etc., right? So that's what they do day one, right? So then for day 2, you assign another chunk of reading, let's say maybe chapters 4 through 7. And after they do the reading, they rotate jobs. So now Tommy is doing the summarizing job, right? On day 3, you do another chunk of reading and jobs are rotated again, and so on and so forth. So one idea is to divide up the chunks of your book into an even amount, like 5 or 10 or 15 chunks. Then students do each of the jobs once, twice, or 3 times, right? And they don't do the same job every time. So if you have a student who's really into illustrating, they won't, they'll be challenged a little bit. Or if you have a student who just hates doing one of the jobs, they'll only do that job once or twice, right? Here's what the completed document ends up looking like. So Tommy was keeping track of the characters that are introduced in chapters 1 through 3. So he lists them and describes what we learn about those characters. Kim ended up adding some GIFs and memes to explain what is happening thematically. The connector took 3 passages and explained real life or connections that were to things outside of the text. Right? And you have the word watcher who watched out for a couple words and a quick summary from the summarizer. Right? Now, notice that this is a template which you could assign through Google Classroom, have students make copies and share to each other, or so you figure out the logistics that work best for you. I've also given you a template using a Google slide deck if you feel more comfortable using that. So the descriptions are color coded, and then there's room for students to do the job.